everybody. Thank you so much for watching another great interview from our 2023 Business Connection Summit. I am joined by Donna from IBGR Radio, and we're going to be talking all about the power of podcasts and what they truly mean. A lot of us don't really understand it. So without further ado, Donna, please tell us who you are, what you do, and a little bit about what we're going to be touching on today.
Oh, goodness. Thanks for this opportunity, Bill. I'm really excited to be here to be talking to business owners who have want this idea of what can a podcast do for me? Because that's why we're here, right? The whole WIFM.
Absolutely.
What's in it for me? Well, I guess starting with who I am Donna Kunde. I'm a co-founder of a radio station called IBGR, International Business Growth Radio. We're located on the internet. It's ibgr.network. And 3 years ago, I started this with my co-founder, William Eastman, who is also a part of this weekend or this week
Absolutely.
of interviews. We started not knowing that COVID was coming. When COVID came, it was like the perfect opportunity for what we were doing, because if you remember what happened, all the businesses shut down. And so what Bill had this idea to do, was to amplify the voices of business owners globally so that they can make an impact and help other businesses grow using radio. So since that time, I have produced over 14,000 podcasts that have a little over 800,000 downloads, and it's just a crazy ride.
You're so modest. It's growing really well, and 14,000 is an incredible number.
Yeah.
One small little point I wanted to make is that William Eastman goes by Bill Eastman, so she's referring to Bill, her partner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because my name's Bill as well, so it's always funny being in meetings with him.
The meeting of the Bills.
Exactly. But okay, great. So the first thing I want to kind of talk about is, a basic structure. I mean, some people do, but some people don't. What is a podcast? What's qualified as a podcast? What are we even talking about?
That's a great question, Bill. And these days, nobody really knows, it seems, because there's this traditional idea that you can go to a place like Spotify or Apple or Google, and you'll listen to an MP3 type format of a podcast. But these days, they're even morphing into video podcasts, right? There is this idea of podcast lives, which is what we do at the radio station. But essentially, it is taking a message and it's amplifying it digitally. We like to use the podcast, but we're also into the video space as well. And it makes it easy to connect with experts.
Absolutely. So that's awesome. It really is a great way for a lot of people to get their knowledge out there, the things that they want to talk about, whether it's about themselves or topics or however they want to get it out. So now that we kind of have a vision of what a podcast is, I want to start kind of getting into what can we do with this podcast, and we'll take it piece by piece. So you can list off a couple and then kind of dive into a few of them. But what is the power that we're unleashing by just recording one small podcast?
Yeah, the power is that you're taking your message, which is essentially you, and you're multiplying yourself. If you've ever wanted to be in more than one place at one time, if you wanted more hours in the day, if you want to be able to reach more people, a podcast is a way to do that, because it's your voice being delivered out to the world. You never know who's going to be listening.
Absolutely. And we can deliver it in the ways that you're talking about, with audio, visual, and with all the different programs that are out there now, like you said, Spotify and things like that. I know that Zoom is even a way that some people are putting it out there, and like lives through Facebook. So when we create this podcast, so we talked about the fact that we can get it out to a vast audience, we can get it out to the world. What are some other things that we can do with this podcast that might not be the first thing people think about?
I love that question, because it really flows into a book that's coming out. I want to say I wrote the book on podcasting, and kind of I did. It positions you as an influencer. The book is Influencer's Formula, and it is how really to differentiate yourself. I work with business owners. There's podcasts out there for any number of things. My daughter listens to some on, this, that, and the other thing, storytelling, entertainment. There's all different types of podcasts. I think as business owners, though, we can really differentiate ourselves and our messaging by showing up behind a microphone, by showing up behind a camera, and by really putting a stake in the ground to say, I am an authority, I am an expert, and this is why. This is what makes me different from everyone else. Because there's at the station, we have 5 days in the week that we talk about balanced scorecard of finance, operations, marketing, human resources, and thinking like an executive. And how many different ways can that be done?
Hmm.
A lot of different ways. And what makes
Yes.
you in this whole sea of business owners, what makes you unique and different? And I believe it is when we get behind a microphone.
Absolutely. And I think it's a chance, for us to really show our personality and show that other side of sales that we don't necessarily get to put out there
Yes.
when we're doing our usual marketing, like cold calling, the initial touches, the social media. Um, how to put our personality is one of the things that I think differentiates a lot of businesses on the smaller scale who are making sales right now, because I think people have deviated away from just, oh, you sell this, fantastic. It's more of, oh, you sell this, but who do you support? What do you think? How do you interact? What is your personality like?
Yeah.
So a podcast, like you're saying, is a great way to start putting that out there and then broadcasting it through those different network pieces.
But not only that, Bill, think about what happened with COVID. We all got online,
Hmm.
right? People that were resistant to get online just because we're sitting in this little home of, you can't go anywhere, this social distancing. Well, what COVID did was literally open the world to the business owner. And so if you are still going back into the in person
Hmm.
and not being having a digital footprint, well, first of all, you're leaving money on the table because there's business owners that are looking for you and searching for you, and the only way that they're searching is online,
Hmm.
really. And it's I tell people, you want to live forever,
Yeah,
do a podcast.
exactly. And nothing is not on the internet permanently, as some people find in many different ways. But I think another interesting point, though, too, is that even if a big chunk of your business comes from referrals and direct networks and local areas, the podcast is going to help with those other pieces we were talking about: credibility,
Yes.
getting the word out, and you still are probably emailing them in some fashion. So it's a great thing that you can add to your email. Hey, we just talked at the networking event. It was great meeting you. Why don't you listen to one of my podcast episodes and you can get to know me a little bit better?
Yeah, and I know people that are going away from the traditional business card and
Mhm.
they're using their podcast, right, as a calling card.
Yeah.
Because what my methodology says, short and sweet, 13 minutes. Just do a
Mhm.
podcast in 13 minutes. And there's more to it, right, with road mapping and the whole formula that goes along with it. It's very plug and play. But why if you could speak your message, why wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And I think that it helps with some of the things that a lot of us combat. You're sending an email and you're like, do I add another emoji? Do I put an exclamation point? What's going to make it come across the way I'm trying to say this? And the podcast gives you that ability. Uh,
Yeah. Well, it also separates the I don't want to say the men from the boys, but if you're confident enough to speak your message and to put it out there, there's so many people that will. I hate my voice. I hate the way I look. I hate the way I sound. I hate all these things. And so we stay in our own little bubble instead of putting it out there. And so I think that's really just the fact that you have a podcast will get people's attention.
Absolutely. And I think it, speaks to that credibility factor again. So we talked about getting it out there, getting the voice out. We talked about using it as a calling card or a business thing, building our credibility. What are some other ways that this podcast can be compounded and used in all different things that have to do with business.
Oh yeah. Well, with the birth of AI, ChatGPT, and there's these platforms that come out now that will take your spoken word, because there's a lot of people that will sit in front of a computer and have writer's block,
Hmm.
but can speak. And so when you take the audio form of this and run it through some of these platforms, it will give you blog posts, it'll give you social media posts, it will allow you to repurpose, to leverage, to reuse the content over and over again, but in different ways so that you're reaching more people.
Absolutely. And that's a really good point too, because we all have to be on social media for the most part.
Yeah, like
So
it or not.
yeah, some sort of presence. Even with our websites, we're putting blogs and potentially on there. So having the amount of content that we need to put out, it's always nice to just know that I can use this again and again and again and again and again, as
Mhm.
opposed to, well, there's one. I got 4 other days to fill this week, so what am I gonna do? Um,
It's amazing what you can extract, even from 13 minutes. It's
mhm,
amazing what you can extract from that. You can the things that come out of your mouth as an expert in your field only only said the way that you say it, that they can turn into those quote memes, right?
yeah.
So now you can put those out there. It can turn into a little audio clip called an audiogram,
Hmm.
where just these little snippets that will catch people's attention, and or it can turn into the longer content, like even a book.
Absolutely. And so with with all those different pieces that we can accomplish, I think that what I'd like to talk a little bit about now is some of the expectations we should have going into creating a podcast. What should we think about when it? How long does it take? What are some thoughts we have to put together? Because I feel like there's a lot of great stuff, but it's not fair if we don't talk about some of the expectations of getting into creating one.
Hmm. Yeah, the first roadblock is yourself. Right. So
Mhm.
when I first got started, I had somebody, I went out to social media and looked for accountability. I said, this is what I'm starting, and I want my Facebook friends to hold me accountable. But so that accountability and that self-talk, that yes, you have something important to say. Yes, only you can say it. Yes, there are people that are listening just for your voice. So I'd say, the tough coaching moment, get over yourself first, and then think about what you would want to say. And there's enough of your own special sauce, I think, that in each of us, I say you, each of us have, but we don't think it's necessarily important.
Hmm.
um, it's more important than we think. And so yes, write it down, map it out, think about what you want to say. Typically they say 10 to 15 minutes is a sweet spot for podcasts. You definitely don't want to go longer than 30 minutes. A good microphone, there's a good, better, best system with that. You want to have something more than your computer microphone,
Yeah,
to go with that. And then look for a podcast platform that will help you get distribute, help you get that done there. And I keep talking about help. You can always reach out for help.
absolutely. And I think that whether you do that or not depends on where you're at in your business. If you're just getting started,
Yeah.
maybe you do start by yourself, but once you get further along, you definitely want to seek out that help because it's the only way we're going to get better. And it's the same premise with all of these things. Like if you're in the middle of your company, podcast might be a great idea, but you might not have the time to do it, but you might have the money to invest in getting it done. So the different stages of business kind of help you understand where you might be at with that level of steps and where to go from there. But okay, so all those different things for creating, and when it comes to um, so like time commitments, I
Hmm.
know this varies a lot, but like let's say someone's releasing one episode a week and they want to continue that ongoing. What are some healthy time frames that they should think of from initial investment because you got to get everything kind of set, but then ongoing, like what they would commit to potentially a week?
Yeah, it's a great question. It really is. Because there's this idea that I'm going to be tied to this forever. What I recommend is that you devote a business quarter, you devote 90 days in a little bit of a boot camp, front load all of your podcasting, get in that creative mode, and and then you have your resources. Then you can put them into your marketing plan. If you think about it, if you record 4 podcasts a week, and I recommend them, I say 13 minutes, but 15 minutes or less, you dedicate 1 hour to recording for 90 days, once a week, 13 weeks, you'll have 52 podcasts. That's a year's worth of content that you can
Mhm.
repurpose after that. So the brain doesn't have to switch between creative mode and marketing mode back and forth. I say front load it. If you don't want to front load it, then what time can you dedicate? Put it on your calendar. Make sure you show up for you
Mhm.
to actually do the podcasting. I know I'm talking to a coach. You get
Yeah. Yeah,
it.
that priority part is always the next piece because I tell
Yeah.
people what to do, but or consult them to potentially do new things, or we decide something we want to do. But
Hmm.
if we don't put that priority on it or that importance and get that accountability,
Yeah.
we're just talking.
Which
So,
segues back to that self-talk, because we can
Mhm.
talk ourselves out of it just as easy. I think easier. We can talk ourselves out of it. All the reasons why we shouldn't do it just right now.
Yeah,
And so few times will we continue to talk ourselves into it. And it is a great idea. Yes, you should do it if you have a message. If you've been in business for a while, you have success, you have something to share, and there's people that are waiting to hear your voice.
absolutely. And the last thing I want to kind of throw in real quick before we start wrapping it in a bow is if you're looking to become a speaker or someone who's
Hmm.
going to try to get themselves out there as a personality, it's a great way to do that because now you're starting to build your own resume,
Yeah.
as opposed, especially if you're just getting started as a speaker. So give yourself a speaking event by giving the podcast. And now when you go to people, you can be like, no, I haven't spoken in front of people yet. However, I have a podcast where you can hear me speak
Yeah.
and see how I would perform.
And it can be even harder to speak to nobody, to
Yeah.
speak to an audience. I've done both.
Yeah.
I really have. And what a great point to hone you. And Bill, I just want to say that nobody is good the first time they get behind a microphone.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
it's just not possible, because you can't be good at something you've never done before, but don't let that be the disqualifier, right?
Hmm.
Continue to talk, continue to get better, continue to hone the skills. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I love watching TV shows for that same reason. I'll watch the first and second episode. It's like they don't know what the hell they're doing, where the show's going. And then like you see by season two, it's like, oh, we know exactly what's the same thing. Like The
Hmm.
Office, they had Dwight and Jim were doing a very different kind of back and forth than they did later because they
Yeah.
fell into the groove of what people liked. So
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely
I've been binging
practice.
NCIS. I'm on season 9, and they've got their groove now. But the first season, I was like, wow, this made it this long.
Exactly. Yeah. So to tie this all into a nice little bow, um, we want to do podcasts for several different reasons to get our brand out there, to really get ourselves to be the prominent people. Um, what I would like is for you to kind of give us a little, putting it all together, kind of like summary of the podcast world, and yeah, so
All right, putting it all together. First of all, I believe that all of us have a reason for being here. All of us have a reason for starting a business. All of us have some experience to share. And I think that the best way, one of the easiest ways to do that, to amplify that message and that voice, is to do a podcast.
hmm
Especially since COVID, there's a lot of platforms, makes it a lot easier. We're a lot more camera friendly now.
hmm
After COVID, we're more comfortable seeing ourselves and hearing ourselves.
yeah,
And then it's just a matter of making time
hmm
to map out what you want to say, and then do it. Just do it. Like Nike says, just do it.
absolutely. All right, cool. So thank you so much again, Donna, for taking the time to talk with us. I think we really dived into podcasts and its potentials and why we should be considering this as an idea. Um, what is a great way for people to get a hold of you?
Great way to get a hold of me, and thank you for the opportunity, Bill, is email Donna at ibgr.network, Donna at ibgr.network, or visit influencersformula.com. That's with an S, influencersformula.com.
Okay, great. Thanks again, everybody, for taking the time to learn about podcasts and learn what we need to do to accomplish. We will see you all in the networking event tonight for the 2023 Business Summit, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye.